Good morning. This presentation is about beliefs drive behaviors. For more than 50 years, researchers have shown that a correlation exists between the number of incidences, and fatalities. Investigation into electrical incidents indicates there is more to understand about the causal effect of a number of incidents occurring. Many incidents are caused by undesirable actions of people, and of course we call those unsafe acts. The question is, why do people perform unsafe acts? Is it lack of experience, lack of knowledge, or lack of skills? Well, those things often come into play. What people believe about safety is another important component. The intent of this presentation is to explore these relationships and to focus on unsafe behaviors and beliefs about safety. By investigating and using the actions and recommendations presented in this presentation, fewer incidents will occur, resulting in a decrease in injuries and fatalities. You know, we've all known for years that there's a relationship between incidences and injuries and fatalities. For an example, for every 300 incidences, you have 30 injuries, and that leads to 1 fatality. But in the electrical area, and of course that's where I work, the relationship is different. There's a research paper by Holmes and Crawley, and it states that for every 13 injuries in electrical, you have 1 fatality. Beliefs drive behaviors. Understanding the behavior-based components involved when incidents occur is very important to change safety culture. We need to look into the behaviors so that we can dig into those beliefs that are driving those behaviors. 91% of all the incidents are caused by inappropriate behaviors. Unsafe acts and inappropriate behaviors are key areas that we need to pay more attention to. I think that's an opportunity for a step function in your electrical safety program when you do that. Now we've done a lot of work on management systems. We've done a lot of work on equipment. For an example, we're working right now on an IEEE standard on safety by design. You can buy arc-rated gear today. They've made major improvements in motor control centers, faster acting relays that'll talk to each other. Many concepts of improving equipment to minimize arc flashes and trip when a fault occurs more quickly. But the people are a part of that, and all 3 of those need to come together. Where we need to put more work is on the issue about people and why do they do what they do. You know, we have skills, knowledge, and will all coming together to build an appropriate safety performance. It's about human performance. And we do a lot of work on skills, a lot of work on knowledge, but how about the will? You know, we need to look into the will of people to do things. For an example, now where does that come from? It comes from their beliefs, from the culture that they're involved with, from the environment in their electrical shop or the place where they work. Definitely from their experiences, because experiences lead people to believe certain things. And of course then there are other issues. Everything that we see, hear, or read, we filter through our experiences in life. You know, we're always asking, does that fit into my world? And you read maybe a standard and you interpret it a little bit different when the authors of that standard meant it, because you're filtering through your experiences and basically fitting into your world. So sometimes different people interpret things in a different manner. For an example, you may interpret some of the things in this presentation a little differently than what my intent is, because you're going to filter it through your experiences. We all have different experiences, and these differences can cause us to interpret standards and processes in a different manner, as I said. Our experiences may lead us to different understandings of something that we see or read. Two people can watch an event and they may give two different stories simply because they filtered it through their beliefs. So how does it fit with our experiences and our beliefs? How does this fit? Can we look into that to help improve our safety program? Well, behaviors. What are they? You can observe a person's behaviors. You can observe what they do, and you can observe what they don't do, the actions that they take and the actions that they don't take. Sometimes they're appropriate, and sometimes they're inappropriate. For instance, the individual on the top picture, on the top right, is taking a voltage reading where the instant energy is quite high. And you can see how he's dressed. He's using a quality category 3 meter. It's 480 volts that he's dealing with there in a motor control center. And you can see he has rubber insulated gloves with leather protectors and a full arc flash suit on. Now the individual on the bottom, a different story. It looks to me like he's dressed in all cotton clothing, not FR clothing, not arc rated clothing. He has a metal watch band on, his sleeves are rolled up, no safety glasses. He's doing that voltage reading on that 480 volt system barehanded. The culture's changed. When we do voltage reading today, as a minimum, you should be wearing rubber insulated gloves with leather protectors, and of course your safety glasses. You might have arc rated clothing on as well. Now, how do our behaviors impact our performance? Most instances involving people are due to inappropriate behaviors. It's about the actions they take, and it's about the actions that they do not take. But we don't spend enough time trying to understand why people do what they do. Why do they continually not take certain actions? For an example, if you don't believe that a seatbelt will save your life, you may not wear it. If you do believe that, you will wear a seatbelt, and that culture's strongly changed in the last few years. Now, there's a relationship between behaviors and incidents that lead to injuries and fatalities. The question is, what drives those behaviors? Well, beliefs drive behaviors. It's the beliefs that drive the behaviors, and they can be appropriate or inappropriate. And you can drive up this scale or down this scale. You would drive down this scale with appropriate beliefs that drive appropriate behaviors. For instance, having effective job briefings before you start work, testing before you touch every time before you touch any component that might be energized, and many other safety rules that we follow. And we do those things because our beliefs are driving those behaviors that lead us down this triangle instead of up toward fatalities. Incidences. Now this is something to think about. When incidents occur, there's generally something missing in your safety program, and you need to look into that. People don't come to work wanting to get hurt. There's generally something missing in the safety program when incidents occur. Maslow had a chart about behaviors and the importance of people's needs, psychological needs, safety needs, loving and belonging. You want to feel good about yourself, and actually you want to act on your own to get things done. It's very important. You don't need your boss over your shoulder doing things. You feel far better when you do that on your own in a proper manner. Those are about behaviors and needs of people. Now sometimes needs can impact behaviors. Needs might sometimes drive behaviors more than beliefs do. For instance, you may need to have that need to fit in with the people you're working with. And that might actually cause a person to act independent from their basic beliefs. You also might need to follow certain rules to get a raise or to keep your job. And that might be totally independent of what you actually believe in, particularly if you see no validity in the in the procedures that are in place. You may not see the beliefs to yourself. You may not see the advantages, so your beliefs wouldn't drive you there. But if your boss is over your shoulder, you're certainly going to take those actions that are required. These needs are unreliable at 2:30 in the morning when no one else is around. You're going to fall back to your basic beliefs and do what your experiences tell you to do. Well, what drives the behaviors? Well, there are many externally driven behaviors. For instance, management attitudes. Now, management can drive negative or positive things in the workplace. For instance, if management gives an attaboy to someone that gets a job done on time, well knowing that shortcuts were taken to do that, then that might drive the idea that management really doesn't care about safety, they care about production. But management attitudes that will not tolerate unsafe behaviors, and that's clearly understood, will drive a positive attitude in your work environment. Peer pressure, very important. Now, peer pressure can be negative or it can be positive. When you go back to the shop after you do something, there might be some joking going around, but it could lead to negative peer pressure, or it could be very, very positive. And the pressure in your shop or where you work, the peer pressure might be, we don't take shortcuts. Positive peer pressure. We care about each other and we talk about safety and we make sure that we're all working safely so none of us get hurt. Positive peer pressure is a very strong leader toward driving behaviors in a workplace. The environment you work in, the environment could be messy, and it might lead you to think, well, it's okay not to pick up, it's not okay not to clean up. But a clean environment, we all know that good housekeeping and safety go hand in hand. Show me a facility with good housekeeping, I think you'll be looking at a facility that has pretty good safety records. And the culture plays a role. Now culture is different in different locations. It's different in different countries. The way people greet each other in different companies are different. The way people think, the way people act is driven by the culture that you're in. Now what I want to talk about, of course, is safety culture. And safety culture consists of sharing beliefs, practices, and attitudes that exist at a facility. Culture is the atmosphere created by beliefs, attitude, and practices which shape our behaviors. An organization's safety culture is a result of a number of factors, such as management and employee norms, assumptions and beliefs, management and employee attitudes, policies and procedures, accepting accountability for safety, responsibilities and priorities, production pressure versus quality and safety, and action to correct unsafe behaviors that are found in the workplace. Employee training and motivation is very important, and it's extremely important to have employee involvement or buy-in in the safe work practices that we want used in our facilities. Without the buy-in of the employees, you just simply aren't going to get there. And those, of course, are intrinsically driven. Now what we want to work on is behaviors and beliefs that lead to internally driven. People doing things because it's the right thing to do. It's about internal beliefs driving behaviors. And that will always sustain quality safety actions. So that's where we really want to be. Well, our beliefs, what are they? Well, they're a conviction of the truth of something, but it's based on the examination of your evidence. It's based on your experiences. But you filter it through your beliefs. So everyone has different experiences, and they will filter things through their personal beliefs, and they may come up with different ideals or different feelings about something. Well, where do the beliefs come from? Well, they start early. You know, your parents tell you, don't touch that stove, it's hot, it'll burn you. And you learn that. You might even try it out and find out, by golly, they were right. And then you start going to school. You start getting experiences from your teachers, from the friends who come from different families, different environments. They have different experiences, and those can affect your beliefs. Watching TV could do that. And experiences drive beliefs and behaviors. You know, what are your experiences? And they start early and they continue throughout your life. Your experiences drive your behaviors. The culture, I spoke about that earlier. It's different in countries and cities. You know, on the site at your facility, or actually in your electrical shop, it could be a different culture. An example, the city that I live in is extremely liberal. And there are a few of us, of course, that aren't, but the city is very liberal. Now, the environment, I spoke about that earlier. It could be messy, it could be clean, it could be organized, it could be disorganized. And I also spoke about peer pressure, and the important thing is develop positive peer pressure, where people simply won't accept unacceptable, unsafe actions. We care about people, and our peer pressure would be positive and helping people do the right thing from a safety point of view. Now, beliefs, well, they're a little bit like an iceberg. You know, we can see behaviors. We can see what people are doing. We can see what people don't do. But what we don't see is 9/10. For instance, the beliefs of people, the culture, the environment, the experiences that are driving those beliefs that actually affect their behaviors. And there are other things. But that's what we don't see. That's what we need to start digging deeper into to improve our safety program. Why do people believe what they believe? Here's an example. Danny Liggett put this together some time ago in a workshop. He did an excellent job. But our beliefs drive our behaviors, and they come from society, from experiences in life, from the environment, and many times it drives us to the left. And you have appropriate behaviors, you have a safe execution of the job, it reinforces those behaviors that drive those beliefs, and you get into that loop, and so those good beliefs drive good behaviors, and it becomes a habit. But sometimes experiences and society and the environment you work in might drive you to the right side of this chart. For an example, inappropriate behaviors. But you roll a 7 and nothing happens, and it reinforces, hey, I can take that little shortcut. And you get into that loop, and it might become a habit of inappropriate behaviors taking action. An example would be a facility where there's a rolling mill existing, and the guys on the crew got more dollars each month based on the amount of metal that they ran. Well, a particular individual started taking a shortcut. They had very stringent, very strong rules about lockout, tagout. But this individual, when a cobble existed, where he had to get in and take the sheet metal out to get the mill running again, he started taking a shortcut, and he would only stop the controls. He wouldn't lock and tag out appropriately. Jump in there real quick, get that cobble out, nothing happened, comes back out, starts up the mill. They ran more metal that month. He got more money in his paycheck. But one day he was in it, so it became a habit. He rolled lots of 7s. But one day another supervisor walked up when that was occurring and said, why isn't the mill running? And they said, well, Jim went in there to get a cobble out. And the supervisor looked and said, well, the cobble's out, man, start this thing. We need to make metal. And so they did. Well, Jim was still in there, and he got his leg caught in there. They had to amputate his leg that day. Well, he rolled a snake eyes that day. And don't take shortcuts. You know, that meal's running great in that facility today, but Jim's going around with one leg today because he created a habit of unsafe behaviors that were driven by his beliefs that he could do that without properly locking and tagging out. Experiences. Now, under pressure or stress, people will always default to their beliefs or habits regardless of the procedures or training that they've done. They're going to fall back under stress to their beliefs and habits of how to take actions. Now, telling people what to think is not going to change beliefs. What we need to do is provide new experiences that will influence beliefs based on people understanding that it's a positive thing so that you can get buy-in on those new procedures and policies that you're putting in place. New experiences will influence beliefs. Now how do beliefs change? Well, the difficulty lies not in the new ideals, but in escaping our old ones. Now, consequences drive behaviors, and consequences need to be soon, they need to be certain, and they ideally need to be positive. If you have a consequence that occurs and nothing happens, well, that may lead you to a different opinion if something doesn't happen and always happen. And maybe the consequence is very negative. For instance, if you're driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone and a policeman pulls you over and gives you a ticket, well, the question is, did he teach you not to speed, or did he teach you to watch out for cops? You know, there are many of us that slow down when we're on the highway and we see a policeman ahead. Negative rather than positive consequences. Now, this is an important statement here. All efforts that work are effective because they influence people's behaviors. Things that drive behaviors. I spoke about both of these earlier. Management can be positive and drive things. Management, because they're more concerned about production than safety, could drive negative beliefs. And peer pressure. I spoke about that. Of course, positive peer pressure is where we want to be. That's a very powerful thing that influences quality safety in a facility. Peer pressure, it's very powerful. And it's a powerful consequence that drives behavior. So keep that in mind. We want to work on that. How do we do it? We have to involve our people in safety. We have to get their input. We have to get their buy-in so that they believe that it's a payoff for them to follow those new procedures. Now the brain on beliefs. The brain can make a lot of connections. Take, for instance, a professional athlete. They use less brain power to do certain things because they practice until it becomes a habit. So a person that, maybe a pitcher for an example, throws great balls, but he's done that so often that it becomes a habit on how he does that. He has to think about it less. It becomes a belief, and it's a behavior, and it's repetitive, and every time he does it, it reinforces that habit. Now, changing beliefs. What we need to do to change beliefs is we need to change the mental image. We need to change our world. But remember, it's always going to be filtered through your beliefs. Now a very powerful thing on how to help move culture forward on safety. Storytelling. People relate to stories. Before the written word, stories. People remember stories. If you can move a person's heart, you can move their head. But these stories need to be relevant. Personal experiences. I have some, and all of us working have made mistakes before. But telling those personal experiences, tie it to requirements, relate it to conditions in your work environment, and talk about actual incidents that have occurred within your company or within other companies that you know about. But they need to be personal experiences. They need to tie to the requirements that you're driving, and they need to be related to the conditions that the individual is involved with that's listening to that story, because stories can affect people's beliefs. They remember them. For instance, why is it important to remove temporary safety grounds by taking them off ground before you take them off the conductors? The other way around, because if you take it off ground first, then static electricity would come back. And I know personally of 3 people that were killed when they took the temporary safety grounds off ground first rather than off the conductors first. Instant energy came back, it was static electricity, and killed 3 people. So beware. The stories like that can drive safety, telling people why they should be doing certain things. They see a benefit to it, and they can buy into it, but they can remember those stories. Now 3 things about beliefs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. We all need to be involved. People want to be involved. They want to have influence over what they're doing. That's very important. And competence, everyone wants to be good at what they do. They want to be recognized as being good. So we need to constantly encourage that. We need to provide learning opportunities. We need to provide more and more education to keep people on the leading edge of the safety things that we need them to be aware of. But you have to continually encourage learning and providing education to do that if you want good, competent people in your workforce. And these things must be related. They must connect with the current situations. People need to see the importance of that requirement, and that change that you're trying to make needs to provide a benefit to the individuals so that you'll get their buy-in. Back to this now. Management systems, equipment, and people. And they all need to come together. But here's the bottom line on this one. It's the people that are exposed to electrical hazards, and they're the ones that are involved in incidents, injuries, and fatalities. To improve safety, we need to focus on people and their beliefs. So step 1, there are some steps to changing beliefs. The first step would be understand people's beliefs. Understand what behaviors are occurring. Identify the critical behaviors. You may have someone making voltage reading like the individual on the left in this picture. Where you want to be is over on the right, where this person is dressed appropriately for the instant energy when he's installing that breaker. We need to identify the critical behaviors and make sure that we attack the ones that are important to improve our safety program. But you have to understand the behaviors that are occurring. Step 2. You need to have good open discussions. The picture on the right there shows the discussion taking place about safety, talking about why people are resisting some new changes that we're putting in place. What are the barricades? And once you understand that, then you can address those issues and break down those barricades that are preventing that change taking place. But you can only do that if you involve your people and get their input and find out what those barriers really are. And then reinforce those new beliefs. You'll get new procedures in place, but to stay there, it's like that athlete practicing. It needs to be over and over and over again through continuous training, through practicing, through reinforcement until it becomes a habit. That's an important thing. If without all 3 steps, you won't get there. So in conclusion, improvement equals shifting people's beliefs. Shifting the beliefs in people's thinking, and the way we think, and the way we act. So I think the next step function in safety is we need to work on the beliefs of people. Change comes from studying, understanding what's going on, from measuring how often it's going on, and from evaluating and identifying those critical behaviors. Creating intrinsically safe behaviors, reinforcing change, consequences that are soon, certain, and positive to follow when an event occurs. Employee involvement in safety is critical. Positive peer pressure that will not tolerate unsafe behaviors is an important thing. Doing it because it's simply the right thing to do. Intrinsically driven behaviors is where we want to be. Now in conclusion, making changes in electrical safety performance requires shifting beliefs about electrical safety and work practices used. Understanding how to discover and then change beliefs of people is the key missing piece to improvements in our electrical safety performance. Observing, compiling data, studying the leading indicators, implementing change through inclusion methods, and sharing a unified belief about safe work practices will fill in this missing element. The next step in changing electrical performance must address the safety beliefs of people. It takes time, but it's time well spent. Workers must be provided with new experiences which they recognize as a benefit. In order to create an intrinsic reaction from people, one that makes them believe it's the right thing to do, the beliefs and behaviors of people must be willingly changed. Consequences drive beliefs and behaviors. Soon, certain and positive consequences are the most effective in driving our behaviors. Peer pressure is one of the most powerful drivers that affect behaviors in an organization. Employee involvement in safety is a key element to developing a positive peer pressure that will not tolerate unsafe behaviors. Changing beliefs comes through study, measurement, including people, and evaluating results. Providing reinforcement for intrinsically safe behaviors will create the desired outcome of improving electrical safety performance. It's about beliefs driving behaviors. Well, thank you for participating in this presentation. I hope you found it worthwhile. If you have questions, you can contact me. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.